Hello there, I'm Jeremiah, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Throw Zone, where I teach you all about the juggling arts. Today we're going to be talking about the conservation of energy in juggling and flow arts to help you understand your body's relationship to the prop and how it moves through space. When you hear somebody talk about how smooth a pattern looks or how smooth somebody's juggling is, usually you're talking about the conservation of energy. I was first introduced to this concept by staff and poi spinning early on in my juggling and flow arts journey. And over time, as I started to incorporate some of these concepts into club juggling, I started to realize that I didn't really have the vocabulary to describe what I was doing and how to distinguish something like a regular catch from something like a catch that then is caught, spins, and leads into a throw. And so I started to coalesce what I had learned into a simple system that allows us to talk about the motion of the prop and how the energy is conserved upon the catch or upon the throw. And it allows us to describe the patterns in a whole different way. And I'd like to share that with you through this video. Before we continue, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Flow Toys and my Patreon supporters who help make these tutorials possible. If you find these videos useful and would like to support the channel, a few bucks from enough people goes a long way to helping my efforts at making the juggling arts more accessible to anyone who wants to learn. As a Patreon supporter, you'll enjoy all my tutorials ad-free, get access to bonus materials, and I'll take your requests for content and answer your questions to the best of my ability. Find me on Patreon at The Throw Zone. It's linked in the description of this video. So I've created 3 different categories to describe our interaction with the prop. It can be used to describe the path of a single prop, or it can be used to describe a pattern as a whole. They are non-conserved, partially conserved, and fully conserved. Partially conserved has 2 subcategories, conserved on the catch and conserved on the throw. Fully conserved also has 2 categories, rotationally conserved and transitionally conserved. We'll go through all of those right now. Non-conserved is when you completely stop the movement of the prop and then create a brand new force to throw it again. I'm not using any of the downward momentum to enter a spin or enter the next toss. Just because it's non-conserved doesn't mean it's bad. There are tons of non-conserved throws. Vertical flat, back and forth, is non-conserved. Every time I catch it, I stop it and change its direction again. A wall plane throw in the reverse cascade style is the same. Let's take a look at a few non-conserved 3-club patterns. The traditional cascade. See how at the bottom of the catch, it stops completely and changes direction. Same goes for doubles, or your triples, of course. Flats. Wall plane cascade, or reverse cascade, I should say. See how every time I catch it, I stop it and I change its direction. Same goes for the vertical flats, or if I go with any number of vertical flat patterns, like a Kino's mess is non-conserved. A Mill's mess, non-conserved. Every time I catch a club, I change its direction completely, creating a brand new force. Partially conserved patterns have a stopping point in them like a non-conserved pattern. The difference is that you use the momentum in some way. You're either using the catch to enter a spin, or you're using the spin to enter a throw. So here's a couple examples. If I catch the club and I allow the momentum of the club hitting my hand to continue, that downward force encourages the club to start to swing. If I allow it, then I'm conserving on the catch. Now, if I then stop it to throw it again, I have entered a point of non-conservation. So there's 2 different parts happening in the path of the club. On the catch, I conserve it, and then it's non-conserved before I throw it. I could do the reverse of that and stop it as soon as I catch it, and then create the new force to get it spinning, and then use that spin to enter the throw. This is more takeout style. Catch, create the spin leads into the toss. So that's conserved on the catch, when you enter the spin from the catch, and then stop to throw. And then there's conserved on the throw, where I stop when I catch, create the spin, and use the spin to enter the throw. There's a lot of different forms this can take. You could spin on the inside in either direction. You could add a spin off of a vertical flat. You could add multiple spins under your double. Let's take a look at a few 3-club examples. From a cascade, if I add some outside swings, then I'm conserving on the catch. And then every time I add that swing, I then stop and change its direction. Conserved on the catch. If I change the direction, I could conserve on the throw instead, stopping the motion of the club as soon as I catch it and changing its direction to create the spin. So I'm using the spin to get into the throw. Conserved on the throw. Another great example is a Mike's Mess. A 5-2-2 in sight swap. You can see that every time I catch the club, it immediately enters the spin on the outside, swings once on each side of my body, and then stops before I throw it. Partially conserved on the catch. If you reverse its direction, you'll conserve on the throw. A lot of patterns can benefit visually from being partially conserved on the catch or on the throw. For example, let's look at a shower. Non-conserved. Every time I catch it, I completely stop. But what if I conserve the catch? Suddenly I add a little something extra. And there's a lot of ways to do that. If you conserve the catch on a wall plane shower by catching the handle early, you create a really interesting variation of the shower. Another great example is using the reverse cascade vertical flats and then adding spins. As you can see, as soon as I catch it, there's a certain amount of natural momentum there. And I can use that to enter the spin immediately and then stop it for the throw. You could do the same thing with a reverse cascade. Add some spins. Whoops. Now it's partially conserved. There's still that point when I stop it and I change its direction, but I'm at least using all that energy that we created to do a little extra since we've got the time. Conserving on the throw always tends to be a little more difficult because you have to create the new energy to create that spin rather than just a standard toss. As you can see, there's a lot of different possibilities with partially conserved patterns. Conserved on the catch versus conserved on the throw. What if you're doing both? That leads us to fully conserved patterns. Many of my favorite patterns are conserved patterns in one form or another. Let's start with transitionally conserved. When I say transitionally conserved, I'm referring to the transition from the club rotating in one direction to me catching it and then rotating in the other direction. So if I flip the club and it's rotating this way, but when I catch it, it's rotating the opposite direction without creating a new force, that's a transitionally conserved interaction. Rather than conserving the catch and then stopping and changing its direction by forcing it back up into the air with a brand new force, I'm going to instead allow it to change directions and lead straight into the next throw. And so that could come in a few different forms. Great example would be a wall plane cascade, where as soon as I catch it, I allow the club to lead me to the other side. So as you can see, while it's flipping, it's rotating one way, and then once I catch it, even though it's on a much bigger circle, the club is rotating the other direction. As soon as it hits my hand, it wants to change direction. So it's using the best parts of the partially conserved categories and combining them together into one pattern. Great drills to play with are using that momentum to turn your body back and forth. Or when you do a back cross, the back cross is transitionally conserved. As soon as I catch it, I use that momentum from the catch to go behind the back again and again. Or even under the leg. If I'm emphasizing the back and forth swing, then I'm transitionally conserving. You can do a lot of those patterns without transitionally conserving it. If I'm going under the leg here, I have to stop under my leg and create a brand new force every time. Whereas if I allow it to swing back and forth, then the club does a lot of the work and I just intercept it for a moment and the forces at play do most of it for me. I just keep it from falling down to the ground. Another great example is if I throw it off to the side, much like I'm doing here, but then when I catch it, I don't come across to the front of my body. I'm going to go straight to the ring grip to create that spin. Then I can swing it to the socket grip and use that rotation to toss. So you'll notice as I go through a few different transitionally conserved pathways that there's never a moment where the club truly stops rotating. As soon as it hits my hand, it changes directions without me having to apply a whole new force. I'm conserving on the catch and conserving the throw. Transitionally conserved. Let's have a look at a few transitionally conserved patterns. One of my favorites, underarms. And the more that I allow the club to change directions when it hits my hands, the faster the pattern goes and the smoother it looks. Same with back crosses. Or if I want to add some spins or some extra doubles, I'm still transitionally conserving. By focusing on conserving the energy of the pattern, you can often really clean it up, right? Like here's an underarms where I'm not thinking about conserving the motion. I'm just forcing it to go from one side to the other. See how I stop every time I catch it? But if I focus on that conservation, it allows the pattern to get much smoother and much more relaxed. And you use more of the available time to execute the pattern. Another great example to demonstrate the difference between a non-conserved and a transitionally conserved pattern would be if you took a look at Mills mess. Mills mess is not conserved. Every time I catch it, I completely stop it and change its direction. But if I change the Mills mess so that it's on a wall plane, now every time I catch it, it swings to the opposite side and leads directly into the next throw in the pattern. And once again, the more that I can allow the club to swing when it hits my hand, the smoother that this pattern looks. A few other examples. I've heard it called a French cascade. In this case, I'm using a ring grip to swing behind my back as soon as I catch it. And then if I extend it and open up the pattern and throw from a socket grip, still transitionally conserving. But every time I catch it, it still changes directions. The last and final category, rotationally conserved patterns. Many of my favorite tricks are rotationally conserved. And basically, it is like it sounds like. If the club is rotating a certain direction, it continues to rotate that same direction. That could be with no beat style throws or with rotations. So, a few of my favorites, the windmill. Whether you have rotations or not, rotationally conserved. Of course, sebs. Whichever variation you're talking about. Naturally, any kind of buzzsaw patterns fall into this category as well. Whether you're talking about the outside throws or the inside throws, which I'm not very good at still, rotationally conserved. Let's give it one more go. Oh, not bad, not bad. It's coming along. So far, we've looked at the path of a single club, or we've looked at entire patterns that do the same thing on both sides. But part of the usefulness of this system is to be able to describe more complex patterns that are compound in nature with multiple things going on. And then you can apply the system to be able to modify those patterns or get new ideas. Here's a great example. As you can see, I've got a double up on the side that's non-conserved. Every time I catch it, I just change its direction. The other two clubs are rotationally conserved and keep rotating in the same direction whether I'm throwing them or whether they're spinning. So that allows me to describe the pattern. The 4 is that double up on the side that's non-conserved. The 3 and 3 are those two clubs that are doing the no beat and just switching places every time. The double creates the time for the little swing behind the hip, and the other club just finishes its path with a little swing in front of me, not nearly as long. So 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, 3, 3. We could then take that pattern and break it down to non-conserved. What would that look like? Well, a 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, 3, 3. Now we've got the base pattern at its core. With the swings, could I make the entire pattern conserved? If I wanted to make it fully conserved, one thing I could do would be to take that double and turn it into a little toss like that with a full rotation or just as a flat. Let's give it a try. A little choppy, but if I keep working on that forward buzzsaw, it might just come together. One of my favorite transitionally conserved patterns is sort of a compound pattern in nature. There's a lot going on, but basically it's a 5, 2, 2, 3, 3. If that doesn't mean anything to you, there's a double with some swings, like a Mike's Mess, and then there's 2 regular throws that switch sides. But of course, they're not going to be regular throws, they're swinging throws. So the jumbles look like this. This is a basic jumble anyway. And this is a transitionally conserved version of the jumble. You can see the double that goes up on the side is transitionally conserved as it swings to the other side. And the pattern, or the 2 3s that go back and forth, also are transitionally conserved, changing the direction of rotation as soon as they're caught. But can we do something else with them? We could change how the pattern is formed. Keeping the double, because that's what gives us the time, what if instead we remove the transitional conservation and use it only with one of the other throws, adding that little extension. The yellow club is not conserved. The green club still is conserved transitionally, and the orange club still is conserved. So these have just been a few examples of how we can use the system of conserving energy to re-examine a lot of our patterns and be able to communicate what's going on in a lot of them. Going back through them one more time, real fast, we've got non-conserved, stopping and creating a new force every time we catch it. Partially conserved, on the catch, using the force of the club hitting our hand to allow it to enter a rotation, but then we stop it and change its direction anyway. Partially conserved on the throw, stopping it as soon as we catch it and creating a new spin that then leads into the throw. Transitionally conserved, where the catch leads into the throw, sometimes with a lot of spin and other times with less spin, but always using the momentum from the catch to lead to the other side, often while playing patterns. Fully conserved rotationally, where the clubs always rotate the same direction. I hope that this helps shed a little light on some of the more advanced juggling patterns you're seeing out there these days and helps you break them down a little more effectively so you can understand what's going on and be able to take your practice to the next level. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to a few people who I bounced a lot of ideas off of as I was kind of forming this system of thinking about patterns of these sorts. And that's Zoe Shugart, Richard Hartnell, Jesse Johnston, Marvin Ong, and Amy Walishka. I hope you've enjoyed, hope you've learned something. Once again, check out the Patreon if you want to help support the channel. Keep an eye out for my next video. Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell if you really want the notifications, and I'll see you around. Take care.